Welcome to the Climate Conscious podcast, where we discuss all things sustainable. I am your host, Deval Bazi, and joining me today is Sian Cuffy-Young. Hi, Sian.
Hello, Deval.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you on today.
Me too.
So, Sian Cuffy-Young is a waste management educator, consultant, and social entrepreneur. She holds a master's in environmental engineering, a diploma in environmental management, and is also a Fulbright Hubert Humphrey Fellow from Cornell University, where she specialized in quarry rehabilitation. Sian is the founder, CEO, and principal consultant of Siel Environmental Services Limited. With over 14 years' experience in the field, Sian works with schools as well as small and large businesses to become waste efficient. So, Sian, according to the World Bank, the world generates about 2.01 billion tons of municipal solid waste annually, and at least 33% of that is not managed in an environmentally safe manner. This figure is expected to grow as the population grows and also as incomes increase. Recycling has been popular for some time, but in addition to recycling, what are some other aspects of waste management that we need to be paying attention to?
Even though you share that World Bank statistic, I want to give you a local one as well.
Okay, great.
According to the last waste characterization study that was done in 2010, they found that approximately about 84% of our waste is recyclable. And within that 84% comprised organic waste, plastics, paper, glass, just to name a few. But also, according to Swim Call in my conversation with the then CEO, when I asked him, but how much do actually recycle? He said only about 1%. So what that says is that we still have quite a distance to go where recycling is concerned. But for us in the waste management field, there's something called the waste management hierarchy. It's something that I talk about quite often because I want people to realize that we've been skipping a few steps and jumping down all the way to recycling as the first line of defense when it really isn't in terms of waste management. So that hierarchy basically says, of course, most people know the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Yes.
And the order of the 3 R's is extremely important. But we've added a few more R's in between there that we realize that people need to return to. So one of the R's that we've included is refuse. So if you don't need it, don't take it. We have a very high rate of consumerism, and as you said, as the population increase, that will only get worse. So if you don't need it, don't take it. And it refers specifically to single-use items, so straws, cups, disposable plates, plastic bags, and so on. So there's refuse, there's reduce, there's reuse, and then there are some other R's sprinkled in there right before we get to recycle. So we have repair and we have repurpose as 2 additional R's. And the thing is, Deval, our parents and our grandparents' generation did that a lot. They never threw anything away immediately. They would say, well, let me see how this could be fixed first. Or maybe the neighbor could use it. We had a lot more of that happening. Now it's just like, it's broke, throw it away, or get a new one. So we need to break that cycle. And it also lends to the circular economy, because what we have now is a linear economy where waste is concerned, which is take, make, waste, right? But the circular economy breaks that cycle and adds in recycle and redirects the waste. So as I explained simply to people, is what would have been the output would now become an input to something else. So before we get all the way down to recycling, because you see how many hours before we actually reach recycling,
Yes.
we should really be practicing all of those rather than jumping straight to recycling as the be-all and end-all solution of everything. After recycling, of course, then we get to where things finally get to the bin, and then they ultimately get to the landfill or what other method of disposal we choose to use. In the Caribbean, for the most part, our main method is landfilling. It is the same here in Trinidad and Tobago. There are few islands sprinkled in between that may have looked at things like waste to energy as one of their solutions, incineration as well as one of their solutions. But for the most part, we still predominantly have landfills. So the goal is to divert as much waste away from the landfill as possible and put that waste into use. So as I was reading something this morning, give value to that waste, because waste is not something that you just throw away anymore. It has value. It can be made into something else. So that's what I do a lot with schools as well, showing them how waste can be made into other things, useful things.
So last September, I had the privilege of visiting the Solid Waste Authority for Palm Beach County. That's in Florida. And I was extremely impressed by their integrated solid waste management system. They combine recycling, renewable energy, and landfilling. Do you envision something like that working locally and also throughout the region?
What I would say to that is that we really need to look at our waste composition and see where we can do different activities. So I'm never an advocate for just taking things from somewhere else and slapping it into your country and saying, okay, it works.
Right.
We have to consider our waste composition, our moisture content, all of these things, because we tend to have very high moisture content in the Caribbean because of our climate, right? So with high moisture content come higher rates of energy use. We have to really look at the picture in a really big sort of way. Integrated solid waste management is the key in terms of how you can go on using different strategies to solve the problem, because there's no one straight fix. But I would really say for any island to really take a good look at its waste composition, because I think there is an opportunity to set up recycling industries, repurposing industries, upcycling industries, where people have gotten really creative at using waste to different things. Even in Trinidad and Tobago, I've met a few of them, who turn paper. One of my good colleagues is from the Paper Eco Studio. She takes paper and makes it into books and journals and bookmarks. I actually have one of her bookmarks. Then I have another colleague who takes glass bottles and turns it into lamps and puts lights on the inside. So we have a brewing industry, a burgeoning industry with using waste and turning it to things of value. Yes. So I wouldn't want it to diminish that in any way. I would like that to flourish. But there are some other kinds of waste, like tires and hazardous waste, and in those categories, that things like a waste energy plant or using it in a cement kiln, for instance, would make sense. So in essence, to really take a look at your waste composition, there's no one straight fix for anybody, but there's also an opportunity for setting up industry using waste.
So the last waste characterization study was done in 2010. Are we due for another one?
Oh, most definitely. We're overdue for another one.
What exactly is a waste characterization study?
So what it essentially is looking at all of the different forms of waste. So what they typically did in the last one is that, so they visited the landfill sites and they got figures from SwimCall and able to get weights of material. They were able to class the waste by type. So they would say, okay, out of this 700,000 tons of waste that is generated per day, it's probably a little more by now, but that was the figure then. This percent is organic, this percent is paper, this percent is plastic, this percent is glass, textiles, and tires. So that's essentially what it is. So it just looks at all of the different types of waste that we generate and put them into categories, and using the weights and the tonnage in our case of the waste that we generate and breaking it down into those categories. And 10 years later, so things have changed, the population has increased. We definitely have, with the inclusion of technology, we have new forms of waste now, like flash drives and all of these things that we never had before. Electronic waste figures have gone up considerably because everybody has more than one phone.
Yes, I think e-waste is an area that requires particular attention. What do you do with your cell phone when you upgrade to a new one?
Exactly. And as I said, because technology has made our lives so easy, there was a study that was done, I think, and they said that each person has 2.1 phones, or somewhere around there, 2 point something phones, which essentially breaks down that everybody at least has 2 phones. And you asked a very good question. What do I do with it? People will take their phone and dump it in the garbage, right?
Yes.
And we do have e-waste recyclers, and we actually do encourage people to see if your phone could be repaired first, or if your desktop or laptop could be repaired, please donate it to somebody so that it doesn't end up into the waste stream. But if it must be discarded, use the reputable recyclers that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. We have at least 3 that I know of. So if you drop it off to them, there's no cost, but if they have to come and collect it from you, there is a transportation cost attached. So that's essentially what it is, because your phones comprise of really harmful compounds, and it also comprises of high quality metals. Your phone has gold in it, your phone has silver in it, your phone also has arsenic in it, it also has lead in it, right? So because landfilling is the main method of disposal for us, you can't allow those harmful chemicals to interact with our soils. And that's what landfilling is. You're putting waste in dirt, right? So because of that, Supreme Court took the decision to no longer accept any e-waste at any of its landfill sites, and people have to use those providers. So one of the things I would say to the cell phone and the telecommunication providers is that if you can put the disposal fee into the cost of the phone, therefore when their phone no longer works, they can return the phone to you. The disposal of that phone in an environmentally sound manner is already taken care of. I have no idea, Duval, why that seems like rocket science, because it's a simple fix. So that's where we need to get to. We're still not there yet.
I know you are very much involved in waste education. And you also provide online and in-person training. So tell us a bit about that.
Before I do, though, what I would, for your listeners, I have compiled a list of recyclers in Trinidad. Well, it's for Trinidad and Tobago specifically. So I'm sorry to the other islands. I have not done that for you. But it's something that I share openly so that I could share that with you.
Wonderful.
And you can share it with people within your network as well. So that's that. So the waste education, of course, is predominantly with the schools. So I have a waste program. So I go into schools and talk to them about waste at different tiers. So we start from what is litter, and if they should litter, because the children know it. One of the things that I found was so amazing is that they knew, sometimes it's the adults in their lives that tell them differently. So they know they're not supposed to litter, but mommy or daddy, if we're walking down the road, will tell me, well, just drop the bottle there now. But they know that they're not supposed to. So it's always a back and forth in their own little minds about what's right and what's wrong. Because the people that they look up to make sure that they do what's right tells them the wrong thing sometimes. So from what is littering to where their waste ends up to what could be recycled, how they recycle, and then we always do a fun activity teaching them those lessons. I play a lot of games, and one of the things that I did most recently is that I wrote a children's book targeted for children children 6 to 9 years old in a series similar to what I do in school. So it was my way of leaving something tangible behind, so that the story continues even after I have left the school, and their mummies and daddies and their guardians could continue reading to them, and keeping the story going.
So when is the book coming out, or is it out already?
I'm hoping the book comes out before the end of the year. This pandemic has really taken things back a little bit, but I'm trying to jump back on the horse because it's my fourth child. I have 3 real children, and I really, really want to get it done. It's something that I feel so strongly and passionate about. And I am also looking for sponsors. So if anybody who's listening is willing to be a sponsor, I am willing to say yes. So the book is targeted to 6 to 9-year-olds, and I am doing something different for each. So the teenagers, the secondary school children will get something different, because I recognize they love their phones, and I have my own teenage son as a focus. So whatever I think would work for him, because he's a real picky young man. And if he's picky, the average person will probably want to do it, but I have at least his group of friends that I could reach out to. Because for me, waste literacy is extremely important, and that is essentially what is missing. We are not as waste literate as we need to be. Understanding what happens to our waste and making conscious decisions to do better. So for me, I'm starting at the children, and then the online and offline training is for the adults. So I teach online and offline. I just actually put up a post on my LinkedIn page about my next online composting class. So if people want to learn composting, because we're all home now, we're cooking and eating a lot more. So I want to teach people how to compost. So that's one of the online classes that I have now. I have another program, online program for small businesses called Waste Efficiency for SMEs. And that I walk you through the whole process. We look at all the forms of waste, and we help you put in place a eco-friendly program to deal with that waste. So whether it's a return program, whether you're switching out your packaging, and then how do you communicate that to your clients? So we have a module just on environmental communication. And then for larger businesses, it's more of a customized approach because everybody is different. So I basically work with them one-on-one to do essentially the same principle, look at all of their waste streams, but we're adding on things like energy audits and all of those things. So those things will be added on to our portfolio.
Nice.
But we look at waste and we see, okay, what are some of the things that you can do? Because the whole purpose of this exercise is to divert waste away from the landfill. So what are some of the activities that you can do to do that?
Right.
And then you can put it as a part of your sustainability message, part of your corporate social responsibility.
Yes.
Not just how much water you're saving or how much energy you're using, but how much waste you're also looking at in terms of becoming more efficient. So that's what we do for the larger companies as well.
Yes, and it's about making your entire system sustainable from your inputs to your outputs.
Definitely. You're very right.
Siel Environmental Services Limited received the award for the Best Waste Education Company in the Caribbean by Build Magazine.
Yes. Still in awe. I still have to pinch myself.
Congratulations. Tell us a bit about that award.
Build Magazine has a recycling and waste management award. It's an international award. So there are pretty big names on that list. What they do is that they look at your processes, they look at your activities, and they also look at what you have been able to achieve. So, I mean, some of the companies that I look up to as an upcoming entrepreneur in the waste industry, they have been listed in that award before, and I was like, oh my gosh, you mean I am with them? Those same people that I look at and I admire and I pay attention to, because almost daily I I read something about what's happening with waste in some parts of the world, and organizations in the UK, in India, like Keep California Beautiful, which is a really big entity out in the United States, and a number of companies that, as I said, that I look up to. Waste management in the US is one of those big name companies that I really, really like what they have been able to do. They have received an award before. So I am really, standing shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the big waste companies. I was so very proud. It took me about a month just to tell people that I even got it, because I was so much, I think I was in shock a little bit.
Yes.
But and what they do is that they do research to see if there are any other companies and compare what you're doing to what those other companies are doing as well. So I was really excited to win the award, because, as I say, with everything that we do, waste education is at the center. So all of these activities still put educating at the core of everything that we do. And I remember sometimes I met with a company and they were asking me if they had to do the training or something like that. And I told them, I said, yes, because at the end of the day, it's about changing the culture in the organization.
One of the hardest things to do.
For me in the beginning, that was the hardest thing that I had to deal with. Changing a culture can be so difficult. I did have those days where I was like, you know what, this just doesn't make any sense. People are not listening. People are not doing anything. I feel like I'm just talking to a brick wall. I remember having a conversation with the head of the energy chamber, and we went to talk about other things, and I told him, he's like, why are you looking like that? And I'm like, I think I'm ready to just throw in the towel. And he's like, don't you dare do that, because health and safety for the energy sector was a hard culture. People were, there were accidents and incidents happening all over the place. People were hiding things. People were not reporting different activities. He said, and then when the OSH agency, the Occupational Safety and Health Agency, came into play, and the act associated with that, he's like, everybody started dotting their I's and crossing their T's. He said, but that took a while. It took almost 10 years to get where we are. So that's one of the things that he made me realize, that it doesn't happen overnight. It will not happen overnight.
It doesn't.
But all I can do is to just continue to be consistent, to persevere, and somebody somewhere will hear the message and realize, you know what she's saying is making a lot of sense. Some friends of mine actually told me, Sian, I never even thought about recycling before you talk about it. So don't ever think that nobody's listening to you, because there's somebody somewhere who is listening. So even with the no's and the doors closing and all of that, I still truly believe in what I do. Everything for me started because when I was 10 and I was swimming with my dad in Chagarama, so a loaded pamper hit me in my face while I was swimming with my dad.
Oh my.
That changed my life. I told Daddy 2 things. I said, never take us back there again, which he didn't. And then the second thing I told him, I don't understand how people could be so nasty. And because I was 10 years old, I was like, but if you have your baby, shouldn't you pick up the pampers? Why is the pampers in the water when I am trying to swim? So that to me is where everything started. And my dad has been in scouting for like more than 40 years. And when I was very young, he taught me the conservation law, which is you always leave a place cleaner than you've met it. So even as a child, I was always picking up after other people, because we would go on hikes and the place would be nasty, and Daddy will tell all of us, me included, I wasn't a scout, but me included, you all need to pick up everything here. We're not leaving this place looking like this, because you always leave a place cleaner than you've met it. So that stayed with me, is the principle that I teach my children, to pick up after themselves. So I really try to encourage parents as well to remember to do those little things and learn as much from them as they can learn from you, because they understand and they're exposed to so much more now. My daughter hates seeing people just drop things on the ground. She's like, Mommy, why they don't know that bottle can be recycled? They don't know. She organizational philosophy is transformation, responsibility, and action. I want to transform the way we look at waste. I want us to realize that we are responsible for the waste that we generate. And I want us to realize that we now have to take required actions that will cause us to live in a country that is clean and beautiful. So those things are what govern what we do at Siel and form a part of my own personal beliefs where waste is concerned.
Well, you have given us some real gems: transformation, responsibility, and action. And to me, that
Yes.
is fundamental to sustainability. But
Yes.
that action will come about when we as individuals, as communities, take responsibility for managing our impact on the environment, our interactions with the environment. There's a lot of focus on the younger generation, the primary school and secondary school children, but we need everyone to really, accept that responsibility and take action.
Correct. Because there's another saying that we borrow this earth from our children. And we can't continue to take, and realize that because we, our generation, the Val, which is we are the millennials,
Yes.
are reaping the benefits from our parent generation, which for my parents are a bit older, so they are the baby boomer generation. And we are reaping the benefits of that. We are seeing on dealing with the ramifications of their poor decisions, but they're good ones as well. And it's the same thing for our generation. What we do would affect the children. What I do, and for me it's even personal, what I do would affect my children. I want my children to be able to go to a clean beach, to be able to swim freely, to be able to still see some animals exist, because the animals are becoming extinct at an even faster rate. We have to understand that we cannot just fulfill our own needs without thinking what is going to be left for future generations, our children and our grandchildren, and what kind of planet Earth do we want them to inherit. To me, that is what is important, and that is how I refer to the word sustainability, because I understand that I have to, yes, meet my own needs, but I cannot compromise the needs of those who are coming up after me. When I was doing my certification as an environmental educator, I had a professor who, he always says it is not always about doing things better, but sometimes we simply need to do better things. And that, I was like, wow, mind blown moment there. It's not always about doing things better, but sometimes we simply need to do better things.
Yeah, it's changing our habits.
Exactly.
Change.
Because we always like to say we're doing it better, but what exactly are we doing?
We're doing
better?
the wrong things better.
We're doing the wrong things better, right? So we need to change that.
I came across a quote by Alex Stefan. There's no such thing as garbage, just useful stuff in the wrong place.
I like that.
Today we spoke about the objectives of diverting waste away from landfills and also giving value to waste. And I saw that you were involved in the Canny Cycle initiative.
Oh yes. So what I did is that I teamed up with the team at Canny Cycle.
Yes.
This was their first time venturing into Trinidad and Tobago's carnival. They did Jamaica's carnival before, Crop Over before, and Miami's carnival before. And it was really, really great. It falls directly in line with our mission at Siel, which is why I decided to join up with them in the first place, is because we're transforming the way that we look at waste, and we're doing something about it. So people will normally take off their backpacks. We picked up backpacks from on the side of the road. People just took them off and left them there. And we collected, it was 105 costumes, full costumes, which means the backpack, the arms and leg pieces, and the headpiece, and the bras, and shorts for men. allowing people to repurpose the beads. People have made earrings and chains and jewelry and all beautiful, beautiful items. The company only just started in 2018. That's Candy Cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely something that I am going to continue to be a part of.
So where can listeners connect with Sian and Siel Environmental Services?
We are on Facebook, SIELTT, and you will find us, or you could type in the name SIEL Environmental Services Limited. You will find us on Facebook. We're at SIELTT on Instagram. We're also on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn as myself, as Sian, so you could connect with me, or Siel Environmental is also on LinkedIn, so you could connect. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And I also started a YouTube channel, so a number of the videos that I do, I post on my YouTube channel as well. And I also created a character called the Trini Mother Earth that I play. And I have a few videos there teaching people about different things. Those are the places that people can connect with us. And I love when people ask questions, because questions bring clarity. So I'm always open to somebody asking a question, so people could feel free to connect and ask away.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Sian, for joining me on the podcast and sharing about waste literacy, waste efficiency. I'm really looking forward to your children's book, as well as I'm going to sign up for your online composting session, because for the longest while that is something that I want to start in my backyard, because being home now during COVID-19, you see how much organic waste you generate on a daily basis.
Yes, indeed.
So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share the podcast with your friends and family. Join the movement by following us on Facebook and Instagram at theclimateconscious. Thank you for listening. Bye.